Help. Our self-striving culture praises hustle and grit. The determined get it done 110% every time. So, help can seem like a four-letter word in a bustling law firm. The unmotivated, the weak, these are the types of people who need help. Help is for children, maybe even giant crying babies. Adults, people who wear watches and eyebrows and pleated chinos, these people need no help. They need 8 hours, spit in a shovel so they can dig to the bottom of any problem thrown at them. Asking for help means you need help, and if you need help, it means you can't do it. So if you admit to needing help, you might as well curl up into a coma, because a catatonic version of you would be better at this than you are right now. If anyone asks for help at all in a professional setting, it's called delegation. But do you ever admit that you need delegation assistance? No. You read self-help books, swipe through some inspirational quotes, pin a few recipes, and get back to the grind and work. Not because it's working. What if there was a way to ask for help that could leave your dignity intact? We're talking about getting lawyers and law firms the help they need today on Lawsome, the reality of virtual assistance. Let's dig in.
Lawsome, the podcast for law firms. Powered by Consultwebs.
Welcome back to Lawsome, the only podcast for law firms that will ask for directions if it gets lost. We're here to inform, educate, and entertain the legal community on the latest in personal and business development. I am your host, Jake Sanders, and together with my co-host, Paul Julius, we are your Simba hosts for this episode of Lawsome. Paul, how's Chicago?
It's windy and cold, man. How we like it.
Straight wind, right off the lake.
That's right.
So what's going on the show today?
On the show today, we hit the hot takes buffet with an article from thebalance.com on outsourcing legal work and what it means to lawyers and paralegals. We interviewed Dina Eisenberg from outsourceeasier.com. As always, we put our guest on the hot bench for 10 questions we ask everyone.
Pull up a plate. It's the hot takes buffet.
The link today is from thebalance.com. It's by William Pfeiffer. It's about outsourcing legal services. We talk about outsourcing later with Dina Eisenberg, who does it on a smaller level. This article seems like it's more about big firms outsourcing smaller tasks to lawyers across the sea. I mean, it seems like there's a lot of work coming from India. So my hot take, Paul, what's your take on this?
So the one thing I see here is that, it says mid-sized and large law firms can make their billing rates more competitive by obtaining subcontracted legal services at a dramatically reduced rate.
There you go.
So, and that's interesting because it's talking about our bottom line. Like, we're going to be able to be more profitable. And that's a big corporate kind of opinion, and
Sure.
That's cool. But what about, how can people take this idea of outsourcing and apply it when you're not a huge corporate firm?
Nice.
How is that? How can I benefit from some of these, practices that these larger firms are doing, these larger successful firms are doing? But maybe I don't have 600 hours of discovery work that needs to be done.
I totally agree. I think there might be an opening here for paralegals or legal professionals or lawyers to maybe create another income stream, answering questions or preparing certain briefings or doing that discovery work, maybe for people that aren't associated with a firm. This could represent a chance for them to outsource their legal services to a law firm. And from the law firm side, I see the benefits, definitely, because it's a time management thing. If I need this brain working on this problem, we have to free up the resources that are kind of strapping that brain. So it's about an allocation thing. It's about time management. I see the benefits, but I fear headed towards a gig economy that disassociates people from the institutions that can take care of them. Later on, we talked to Dina Eisenberg about outsourcing and how a lot of people don't know they need help until there's medical emergencies. People's lives have been changed, and then they realize, oh, I need help. or I need to find some way to get some assistance. Most people won't ask for help early enough. So I think knowing that you can ask for help, I think that's the first step.
Definitely. And being able to identify just exactly what you said before that medical emergency happens. You may need to take a look and say, hey, is this business me or is it a business?
As we're outsourcing more, menial tasks to other folks, I want to embrace an international economy. I want to embrace a global economy, but I want to make sure that people have the assistance and the support that they need. The law firm can save money if we're outsourcing, but we won't have to pay for parking spaces. We won't have to pay for health insurance.
Mm-hmm.
But if those people get hurt, they're on their own. So it's some of those gambles that you have to take. And outsourcing helps both ways. I think the individual who's doing the gig economy, who's running their own business, needs to know that they need help and that their future could be disrupted indefinitely if they don't choose to find this out. So you got to make sure, just like what you said, is it me, or is the business me, or is there a business without? It's a powerful question, and I think it goes back to like an existential, problem.
Well, but I think if you answer the question, the business is me, then that's right there. You need help.
Well,
you need help.
Now here's a counter argument. Your brand is you. You are your brand. You're the brand. Your story is your brand. So we tell people to be themselves, be yourself, and then plan for a future without you. It's
true.
I just feel that if I'm a lawyer and I'm hearing this advice, I'm getting kind of confused.
You're confusing me right now. I think, I see where you're coming from. But be you and be the brand doesn't mean that you're also the receptionist and payroll, and all
and
that
the
stuff.
Custodian, the
exactly,
janitor. Right.
Exactly. I mean, there's a certain amount of control. Like in order to be the face, that brand that we talk about, you can't be caught up in the day-to-day operations. You just can't. Like there's only so many, like if this was a manufacturing operation, there's only so many machine hours you're going to get out of the machine. You're going to hit a limit of how much you can produce. So you're going to have to get another machine if you want to expand. It's that simple. You can't work 26 hours in a day,
Well, I think you have to admit that you have to know how many hours.
Yep. Definitely.
You have to start knowing how to measure the success to know if you're succeeding or not. So there's a couple things. I think you need to have a general interest in all of the small things that are happening in your law firm, but you can't go deep. Your depth as a lawyer is in your legal work and the value that you bring to your chargeable hour. That's where your investment is. So you need to make sure that you understand how is it possible to get assistance and outsource and delegate some of these tasks so you can be more effective on a holistic level.
Yeah. And what is it that you can delegate?
Right. Right.
And now, a word from our sponsor.
I met Tanner, who works for Consultwebs, on a plane on the way back from Key West, Florida. And I'd just been thinking that I needed to do some more marketing for my law firm. So when he told me that he worked for Consultwebs, I was super excited. From the beginning till even now, I've been with them for almost 2 years, and the experience has really been great. Having Consultwebs on board is really like having your own team of people that really care about what kind of business you're getting. I mean, practicing law can seem kind of lonely. You always are wondering, how am I going to get clients? How am I going to make payroll? But with Consultwebs, it's not just me worrying about having people come in the door. They're there as well, and they've been so responsive. Since I started with Consultwebs, I have increased the number of employees double at least. And since I started with Consultwebs, the revenue has tripled. It's really been an incredible experience.
Go to Consultwebs.com to learn more.
And now, for a lawsome interview.
Dina Eisenberg got her JD from Suffolk University Law School and an MBA from the Tuck School of Business at Dartmouth. Dina founded OutsourceEasier.com as a cherry on the top of a very successful corporate and academic teaching career that included consulting to Fortune 500 ranked companies and delivering lectures at Harvard University Law School. Her passion is helping lawyers create the law practice that fits the life they desire, earns them more money, and practically runs itself. This illustrious career path finds its culmination with her appearance on this very podcast, and we are honored to have her on board. Dina, welcome to Lawsome.
Thank you so much. I'm just honored to be here.
Well, so tell us about Outsource Easier. What made you transition from practicing law to helping lawyers?
Yeah, it's one of those, patchwork quilt kind of things because one, no one grows up saying that they want to be an ombudsman, and certainly no one grows up thinking that they want to be a lawyer implementation strategist. So I totally understand that question. I started practicing law because my purpose really in life is to give people power through knowledge. And I don't think the law is sort of the only way to do that. And so I was prosecuting doctors for sexual misconduct, a very heavy kind of topic. And I realized I was more interested in the questions and helping people formulate the questions. So I became a small business mediator and then spent a lot of time with small business owners, particularly founders, who, had this great idea. Let's do this business together. But then when they started doing it, they realized, hey, we don't know what we're doing. And your idea of great is different than mine. So helping those founders really get an idea of how to communicate with each other, how to set boundaries, and how to run a great company. I guess that caught somebody's attention because eventually I became the corporate ombudsman for Fleet and a senior vice president. So it's kind of one of those roads where my intention has always been to help people come together and talk about the things that are really difficult to talk about. And the way that I got to talking to lawyers about delegation and outsourcing really came from personal tragedy. So my husband and I, both entrepreneurs and really living the dream. In this country, the dream is all about, you're going to make six figures, make $1 million, travel when you want, and, have all that freedom, right?
Yes.
Everybody wants that.
Yeah, of course.
I had that. But one night it all changed. My husband sneezed. Everybody sneezes, right?
Yeah.
Well, that sneeze changed my world in 12 short hours. We found ourselves in the emergency room talking to a surgeon who told me if she didn't operate in the next 90 minutes, my husband would be paralyzed for the rest of his life.
Wow.
Not what you think is going to happen, right?
No.
Always think the entrepreneurial life is going to be great once you make it to that level. Well, the next morning he made it through the surgery, but his company died that week. Literally flat out died. Why? Every client said to him, gosh, we're so sorry for you. We love your work. You're totally unreliable. We have to hire somebody else. Wow. You have no team, no staff. So we never know now that we've had this incident, whether or not we can trust you.
Oh.
Horrifying, right?
Oh,
So there I am running from the hospital that week to Best Buy to get a laptop. Because my husband now has to work from rehab because I don't know his business. He doesn't have any hired help or he doesn't outsource or delegate because he never wanted to spend the money.
Wow.
And he thought, well, I can do this. Why should I pay somebody else? So there he is in rehab trying to heal from a very serious injury and at the same time running the business. And it put our world in a total whirlwind.
Yeah.
I never wanted anybody else to feel so helpless because even though I was a lawyer, plenty smart, I could not help at all. And it was so frustrating. I thought, I never want anyone else to be in this situation. Who else thinks like that? I've been in corporate life, and when you're at a senior level in corporate life, they don't let you do things on your own. I wanted to, but they're like, are you crazy? No, you have an assistant for that. Right. So I learned to let go, trust other people, and delegate as a means of getting things done. But I know lots of entrepreneurs, and particularly lawyers, don't share that mindset, right? We forget because we're smart and we think we can do everything. We have to do everything, and we're just going to suck it up and do it. So that's really how I got to talking to lawyers about delegation and outsourcing, because I just saw people were struggling. And I realized they didn't see the end goal, the consequence of what happens if you fail to delegate. One of the big consequences is you lose your family, because I'm now divorced.
Yeah. It's interesting to hear that story, and it's heartbreaking. But I have experiences, before I was involved with Consultwebs, running a company as well. To hear you frame it that way. One thing I found is that when you are the business, it can trap you. It definitely, you can't leave. You can't take a vacation day. And if something catastrophic happens, like you just laid out, I mean, that's it.
Exactly, that is it. And then we don't think about that. We think about how excited we are to share our message or give what we have to the world or help people with their legal problems. And it doesn't occur to us that, we have to protect our most important asset, us, right?
Yeah, well said. Well said.
Well, and I think it takes the wheels falling off for you to appreciate the car. In some ways, for anyone to ask for help, they would have to be knocking on a very serious medical condition that prevented them from, actually existing. And that's what it takes for us to ask for help. That's powerful.
Yeah, and I didn't love living that story, but I love telling that story because it is such a cautionary tale. And I go around and I ask people, well, what would happen? Could you be away from your business for 3 days? And most people will say no. So I don't even ask about 30 days because, that's not going to happen.
No way.
But you have to think about it. Could you be away for 3 days?
In a culture that praises hustle and grind, how do you help people frame delegation as part of the hustle, or is that important?
I love this new era we're in where we're having side gigs and side hustles. My philosophy is that lawyers should have more than one income stream. It's no longer sustainable for lawyers just to practice law, and your legal knowledge is meant for sharing in various ways. So I'm always encouraging people to sort of look at different ways that they can offer their knowledge and expertise to their marketplace. Hustlers are amazing delegators, right? That's what I love about side hustles, because they have a very clear vision of what they want to see happen in the world. They're able to communicate, translate the excitement of that vision to somebody else so that they get excited. Then they give them step-by-step instructions. Go do that thing, and it's gone. And now you have somebody else who's just as excited about your vision, who has skill and expertise, who's working to make your goal happen. I say that delegation really is just telling somebody else how they can help you achieve, right? That's all it is.
That's perfect. Most people don't want to delegate because no one does it like they do, or they'll just mess it up. Is it really about time management, or is it about control?
Oh, my favorite, the 3 lies. And I say that because we tell ourselves these little white lies, right?
Yeah.
So
tell us more about the 3 lies.
All right. So I always ask people these questions because it's almost human nature to make a story around when we don't want to do something. So when people talk about, I don't want to delegate, usually they say one or all of the 3 lies. And I know these lies because I've told them too. So the first lie is, I just can't do this because it will just take so much time to explain to somebody else. I could have it done already.
Oh, yep.
Haven't you said that?
Yes.
Okay. The second lie is, it just will not be done right. Well, if I do not do it myself, it won't be done right, and then I'll have to do it over. What a waste of time.
Right.
And then the last lie is, I just can't afford it. I can't afford to have anybody come in. It's just not worth it for what I'm getting paid. Totally the big lies. The first thing is, the truth about delegation is it's a strength, not a weakness. So for people who sort of fear doing it, because the project will get out of my hands and it'll be out of my control, what will I do? Well, you'll do what you always do, which is assess the situation, spot the problem, and assign a solution. It's the same kind of thinking process that you use when you're working through a case. We don't want to let go because we're conditioned in law school to believe that we have to have our hands on everything and control everything, which is an impossibility. You can't do that. It's an inherent conflict. So you're really just holding yourself back if you think you're the only person who can do it. The truth of the matter is, if you hire someone to do the task that you're doing, 50% well, and they do it 110% well, that's a better use of your time and you get a better outcome.
Mm.
So a good example of that is I did a 19 podcast series and I wanted to have the podcast transcribed. Now, first, being the lawyer that I am, I got a transcription program. I'm like, well, dang, I can do this myself.
Oh no.
So I started learning it, and I'm like, very quickly, you don't know anything about how to work this, so you can't do it yourself. So then I decided to reach out and get help from a virtual assistant on Upwork. And the first time I used Upwork, it was horrifyingly bad. I'll just admit that out myself.
Right.
I used it so poorly that I learned how to use it better. So the second time when I'm working with the transcriptionist, I know enough to say to her, what's the best way to do this? She educates me on the best way for me to hire her and save money. That's why delegation is such a benefit. Because, you can learn to do it yourself, but A, the results can be crappy. Let's be honest about that.
Right.
And B, it's going to take you much longer, so you've wasted that time and lost the opportunity to do something else. And C, now you're frustrated because you recognize A and B, and you're like, dang, shouldn't have done it. Really, it's better to let the expert do it. I learned something about transcription, so that now I can easily hire somebody to do that work for me. The one who did the 19 podcast did an amazing job, and she was done so much faster than I could have been with my lame tapping. So it was really a benefit, and I was able to say, I don't know. That's the other reason why lawyers don't delegate. We're afraid of those 3 words.
Oof.
I don't know, because we're paid to know, right?
Oh yeah. Being a marketing expert, me and Paul, or I'm a musician. So sometimes if I hear like a cello that's out of tune, like, do I have to say that? Do I have to tell the people like next to me? Sometimes I'm like, I'll hear a trumpet and I'll be like, oh man, he's a little flat, and I'll tell Lexi doesn't care. My wife doesn't care, but it's like, I'd rather just let people know that I know things rather than just chill in silence,
Jake, I think it's interesting too, with those 3 lies, the one thing that struck me is because I operated for quite some time under the same thing, and it's really hard to let go and delegate. But what I found, especially when you talk about, it'll take too long to explain to somebody, or if I do explain it, it won't be done right and I'll have to go back and do it myself. But there's also the process of doing that, of getting whatever it is that you do to be able to be like distilled and passed on to somebody, I think is a valuable kind of thing to do, because then you learn more about what you're like. It forces you to be kind of introspective about how you're doing business and make it into a system that you can pass on to somebody. So like if you look at it like an investment, like I'm investing this bit into somebody else. And like you said, they're going to take their skills and build on that. That's
exactly it. Sometimes you have to go slow to go fast, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I love that saying. Absolutely. Yeah.
So the going slow part is taking the time to do standard operating procedures. I hate that term. I'll just say that now. I prefer to think of that as a business legend. So you're going to write the business legend of your law practice, which really articulates why you got into the practice, your vision for your clients, how you do business, what interests and values are important to you. So that's like the overarching document that everything else is going to flow from. And then when you're creating a project, we do the same things over and over again as business owners. And we think it's new and different every time, but it's not. It's the same. So you can actually write what I would call a legend, which is the story of that project. So newsletter, we write a newsletter. Here's why we write the newsletter. Here's who we're writing it to and how we want them to feel about it. Here's the information we're sharing. Here's what we never put into the newsletter, right? So that once you get that all codified and written down, you remember, because it's very often that as a business owner, you have so much on your mind, you forget the important things. So you need to write them down.
Yeah.
And so you can be refreshed, but more importantly, you're creating an operations manual. So if you're an online kind of person, you can use a tool like Process Street. and you can write your business legends and your project legends on there, and then that's what you're sharing with your team. So it's really efficient. You're not, when you're onboarding them, you're like, hey, here's my intranet, here's my Process Street account, read through the legends so you know how we do, and then get going.
That's beautiful. There's something called Vimosa, which I stumbled across as I was creating. I had to take over the marketing responsibilities for a law firm. I was just a coordinator. I was just doing social media. And then all of a sudden I was in charge. And so I started becoming really concerned because I didn't know what I was supposed to be looking for, what content I was supposed to be making, how I was supposed to be behaving. Could I talk to the lawyers? I mean, I had a whole problem. And there was a manual. Like, here's the employee handbook, but it's like, if you wear jeans on Friday or you smoke, or you smoke cigarettes, we're going to kick you off. And I was like, all right, I got it. But the vision, the mission, the objectives, the strategies, the action, like, it kind of seems, Paul, everybody we've had on this podcast is talking about filtering, priorities, and understanding how to make sense of things. And I think if you have a vision, like a couple episodes we talked about brand and how everything comes from your brand. If I'm the family law guy, and I'm your, whatever it is, whatever your angle is, you have to have somewhere to come from. And I think everybody has a lot of activities, but the way you phrase it as a business legend makes it seem so much more engrossing, and it doesn't seem boring. I love that the idea is just helping people focus in some way. And so to kind of go back, besides saying that we don't know, why are we so afraid to ask for help? Why is help a 4-letter word?
Oh, my favorite topic. Although I'm sad for us as a profession that we find it hard to ask for help. It's understandable, and now is the best time for us to begin to change our ways and be more open about that. We are conditioned in law school to accept some things about ourselves, and one of those is that we can never be wrong. You cannot be wrong. You cannot make a mistake, because what we do is so important. We change lives. So we take that very much to heart. People who go to law school generally are very concerned with doing the right thing and helping others. And just their natural traits make them not want to make a mistake. So the idea of making a mistake is so just horrifying. So that's one reason why we fear it. The other reason is pretty just human, right? As human beings, we have some basic needs. We need to be seen, we need to be acknowledged, and we need to belong. When you make a mistake, you no longer belong. You jeopardize your place in the tribe. When you ask for help, you do the same thing, right? You show to others that you have a weakness. Now, that's the way lawyers have been conditioned to think about weakness. I was watching Suits the other day. Do you know that program?
Yeah.
Okay. So in Suits, there was an episode where Lewis, the crazy kind of lawyer, really berates and harasses one of the associates very badly. And she leaves, she goes to another job, but later she decides to sue the firm. And so, they send another lawyer over to talk her out of it. And her main objective in this is not to be remedied because there's a harassment issue. Her whole concern was about, I don't want to be seen as weak in my community. I have to sue him because I don't want other lawyers to see that I had this weakness. That was her main concern. And that's how we think about it, right? We think about, I will be vulnerable if other people do not see that I have a huge breastplate of armor up and you cannot get to me.
Can we just talk about the way lawyers speak and even write emails in the way that my father-in-law is actually a lawyer, and we give him all the legal stuff. We say, look at it. Does it make sense? Because lawyers, when they say something, they have to think about the myriad ways it's going to be interpreted or held against them. Yeah. So the way that they speak is very careful and very measured. so as that if there is any logical inconsistencies, that it won't be seen or it'll be covered up with terms. And so, the joke this Christmas was, it says, happy holidays from your lawyer, but then it says happy or, considerate thereof, holidays or your special occasion of, and so everything is like very careful in the way that we phrase it, because lawyers have to be
Precise.
You have to be precise, and you also have to know that the perception of your words is going to be out of your control. So whatever you can do to control something, you're going to put your efforts towards that.
That's so right, that we have to be precise. People rely on our word as authority, as law, right? So you don't want to make a mistake. But I want people to think about asking for help a little differently. And I know this is going to shock some folks. I want you to think about asking for help as a gift, and a gift that a very generous, strong person is offering. Because think about all the times when someone has asked you for help. You felt flattered. You felt important that somebody wanted your opinion. You felt responsible and able to help them. Lots of good things came from somebody asking you for help and then being able to provide that help. Lots of lawyers will say that part of their pay is the psychic pay of knowing that they've helped right a wrong, or they've helped move someone along on their journey, right? Really, when you're asking somebody else for help, you're giving them that opportunity to have that. Of course, you're also getting the help doing whatever it is you're doing. But if you can think of it as a way of giving somebody else those feelings of joy and satisfaction and being helpful, that's a way that you can stop thinking about yourself and thinking about help as a weakness and begin to think of it as a strength. People who have high emotional intelligence recognize their strengths, but they also recognize their limitations, and they don't mind being vulnerable and saying, I need to have some help.
That's interesting, because particularly with a lot of the firms we deal with are like personal injury or disability type stuff. And I mean, like everybody they talk to needs help.
Yeah.
It's an interesting thing. I've heard it called when we were talking to Helen, she calls it the lawyer brain. I have to turn off my lawyer brain.
Yeah, and the lawyer voice.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Because that's stern. I was actually in a bar, and the bartender was kind of dissing me, and I wasn't coming quick enough, and I used my lawyer voice on him. He came over in a second, and the guy next to me said, "What do you do for a living?" And I was like, "Oh, okay, you used the wrong voice."
What's the worst case scenario that you've ever had to help with? Like a lawyer that was so far gone. I mean, they couldn't have been so far gone that they didn't have your help, but have you ever had a really difficult go of it?
Puzzling case. So the woman lawyer, estate planning lawyer, who folks who come to me usually are lawyers who are entrepreneurial and they're doing something new and different. So she had an estate planning practice that was mobile. Her thing was that she went out and went to her clients' location to sign papers and make their plans.
Sure.
Which was great. It's wonderfully convenient for people. And so she had a good intention, but just a poor belief around it. So she would be driving all over the place, literally all over her state, because she had no boundaries on how far she would go. Every day, hundreds of miles on the car, and spending hours with each client. So a day with 12-hour, 14-hour day for her was like a no biggie. That was an average day.
Wow.
Then she'd get home, and because she'd been on the road all day, then she'd actually have to do the legal work that she'd gotten that day or the week before for her clients. So on the road during the day, doing legal work every night and every weekend. Now she was married, and her husband was like, I'd like to have a baby, honey. And she was like, I don't know how, when is that going to happen? So she had a real reason to start looking at her practice. And we sat down and we looked at it. It's like, you have a great intention. I love your intention in the world to make it easier for people to pass along what they want to pass along, but you have a bad belief, because she had the belief that every lawyer has, which is I have to do it myself. And, I have to touch every piece of paper, make every decision. There's nobody else. That belief was killing her and her marriage.
Wow.
So we really had to just dial that back and think of what other ways can you achieve your goal of helping clients in the most convenient way. And we started to look at what kind of automation can we put in place so that clients can feel like they always have access to you without always having access to you. How can we give you some time back in the afternoon or in the evening so that, gosh, your husband sees you once in a while and maybe you do have a baby? So really looking at her systems and then putting systems in place so that she made some good decisions about changing her behavior. But, it's just like, the New Year's resolution, I'm going to diet, and that lasts about a minute and then you're done. She made some great decisions about, I want to change my behaviors, and we put systems in place around her legends, around using a virtual assistant, and automating a lot so that she couldn't thwart her own interest. She couldn't easily, start doing things again.
Right.
We made it harder for her to be so involved. And that was great. Eventually, she got over the feeling that she wasn't doing enough, because often my clients feel like when they start slowing down, that's an anxious feeling for them, because I should be busier doing something. Something's not right. So we worked on giving her some self-care so that she learned to take some nature baths to get rid of that negativity and that anxiousness, and that she could actually just be quiet for 15 minutes, not do anything, and enjoy it. And, I don't know if we've had a baby yet, but I know that her and her husband are building a new house together. So something changed.
It's interesting to even just to say, take 15 minutes. Take 15 minutes to just go.
That you'd have to convince someone to how could you start a business with the ideas baked into it where you say, look, you need 15 minutes and that's just part of the plan. Without feeling like, I think we all like it to the wire, and, we all want it. I mean, we don't even want to burn a candle on both ends. We just want to throw that whole thing in a campfire and just
the whole baby.
Yeah. But let me borrow your candle. I'll throw that thing in there. It's scary to know that in this gig economy, in this hustle world, that people are going it alone because that's the TED Talks kind of, way. And without a reliable supportive network of people who care, and you have to set those things up, because it's not just going to come for you. There is no social safety net for business.
There isn't. And here's the thing that people don't recognize, is that your family never wanted to go into business. Your family just wanted to love you, right? They wanted to love you. They wanted to support you. They wanted to stand by you. They did not know they were getting on a slippery slope of entrepreneurship with you. So really, it's your job to make it okay for them. Your family should not be having a poor experience because you're an entrepreneur. That was the purpose of being an entrepreneur, was to increase everybody's happiness and have a better life, right? So as an entrepreneur, I think you have a responsibility to do a couple of different plans that are different. So I have all my folks do self-care plans as one of the 4 marketing plans they're doing for the year. They do a marketing plan, a revenue plan, a sales plan, and then a self-care plan. It's not going to happen if you just think about it and wish about it. You have to schedule it in. What are you going to do every week to recharge your battery, discharge the negativity, and clear the deck so you have some time for either you or the people that you love. You can't leave that to chance, right? Should be part of your business plan.
Exactly.
You guys are fun to talk to. You're going to get me talking about all kinds of interesting things.
Well, specifically, we do legal marketing. What's your thoughts on outsourcing marketing? Do you help lawyers and law firms handle marketing and advertising issues? So part of your marketing plan, how do you help them kind of work that out?
So that one of my favorite things to do is talk about the marketing plan, because of course you got to have one, but lawyers don't necessarily take the easiest road to getting it. I ask lawyers all the time, do you have an ideal best client? And they're like, yeah, the one that pays.
Yeah,
that's
right.
kind of my ideal best client. Literally, someone said that to me the other day, and I was like, okay, let's back it up a little bit. So
rich and hurt.
Nice. A little bit. You really can use delegation to do a lot of the heavy lifting in your marketing if you're a small law firm or solo, and you should. The reason that you want to is because you're small. You don't have the time or the budget to spend your precious time doing this research. but you can certainly hire a US-based virtual assistant for $45 to do that keyword research, right? So you're using the right keywords on your website, so your SEO is good, so people actually find you. And not only just anybody, but the exact people that you want to find you. And how do you know who those people are? Oh gosh, you survey your past clients, and then you're using a virtual assistant to administer that survey and to analyze the data and tell you, okay, your ideal client looks like this. They go here. They have this social media. All that data is like gold, because the more that you can target and align to that particular person, the less money you have to spend.
Yeah, Jake, when he was still working at the law firm, one time we were talking about that. We were talking about how much data is there, and it's not, most firms that we run into, that I've run into and stuff like that, don't have any kind of system in place to look at that. And what Jake said, the answers are in the garbage can. It's just that nobody wants to get their hands dirty and go in there.
That's a great way of looking at it. Don't put your hands in the garbage can. Hire a nice virtual assistant who loves data to jump right in there and get it out. Because, if you can identify who spends the most money with you and really get that, and I hate the jargon, the buyer persona jargon just doesn't work for me, but find out who that person is and start talking to them, and not as a monolithic block, but one person. I always tell my clients, there's somebody in your book of business that you loved doing business with. You loved their legal problem. You loved working with them. They were perfect. Start examining them, study them like the bar exam, because they're their ticket to having a much happier and much more profitable practice, because you want more of them and less of other people. That's the other thing that you can use a virtual assistant to do that lawyers don't do, which is doing something I call a win-loss study. You do a consult with somebody, and most lawyers expect that person to hire them on the spot. And that used to be the case, right? You got a referral, you went to that lawyer, you hired the first one. It doesn't work like that anymore. Legal consumers have gotten savvy. They know they're supposed to shop around and talk to more than one lawyer. So if you don't get the nod after the consult, most lawyers never look back. They're like, on to the next one. You need to go back to that person and in a nice way, have some conversation about why you didn't get the gig. And it doesn't have to be, and probably shouldn't be, the actual lawyer, but that's a great way to use a virtual assistant, right?
Yeah.
Really good.
Definitely. Talking about that validation, how everybody looks around and looks for reviews and stuff like that. Social media is a lot of people do that. That's where I want to see Facebook reviews. I want to see, if anybody's doing like that. So the question is, does social media then play into productivity? With everybody wanting a real authentic voice from their lawyer. Should the busy lawyer outsource social media responsibilities to focus more on their practice? Or is that something like you need to have a voice?
Yeah, that voice question is so interesting to me, that lawyers are so all about the voice when the writing is so boring most of the time. So,
yeah, totally.
Where did that come from? So yes, you need to be maintaining your social media presence, because the first two things that people do, whether they find you online or through an in-person referral, is they Google you. Mm-hmm. And when they Google you, you best show up on the first page, and there better be consistency in the way that they find the information. You can't be one thing on Bing and then another thing on Google My Business. It all has to be the same and up to date. I can't tell you how many times I find a lawyer where the last comment on their blog was 2014, or I go to their social media site and it's clear they haven't been there or posted in like years. That stuff says something about you, and it's not good.
Yeah.
So you want to use a virtual assistant to really bring consistency to all your platforms. So every directory says exactly the same thing. They all use your keywords so that you're easy to be found. That's something that you want to use somebody else's time to do. OPT, other people's talents, not yours.
Nice.
So, so wrapping up, finally, what does success look like for one of your clients that you work with, Dina?
Yeah, that's one of my favorite questions, because I spend a lot of time thinking about what I want my clients to have in their life as a result of working with me. And one of the best things I think that happens is they sort of get a transformation. Going from somebody who has some maybe unconscious beliefs about themselves, about their identity as a lawyer, about their identity as a business owner, and really being stuck as to like, what is the next move and is it right? Lawyers are all about, is it right? I love that I'm able to sit down with someone and just remind them, your dream life business can be exactly what you want it to be. Right now, you might be operating on somebody else's plan, but when you sit down with me, you make your own plan. And we, design that business so that it really fits. I love that one of my clients said, hey, you know what? I really want to increase my income, my monthly income. And she'd been working at it, but she wasn't getting anywhere. Oh, we sat down and we looked at her systems and we looked at her beliefs, because really that's often where people get stuck. And we were able to adjust it a little bit so she could see more motivation. And within a month, she'd met her revenue goals and decided to double them for next year. Just because she had the ability to sit down with someone who's knowledgeable, but also gentle and skilled in conflict, to sort of tease out those places where she was holding herself back because she had a bad belief, or she was afraid someone would think something about her if she did a certain behavior. That's what I really love, is clients sort of leave with a new idea about who they are in the world. And always they're excited about tackling a great project and making more. And I'm kind of about world domination in the way that I have a certain way I want to see the world become. And the way that I'm making that happen is through my clients. So folks who work with me have great world missions. They're changing the world. They're changing lives. And I'm pretty excited to be able to make it so they can do those things and still be profitable and happy.
What a wonderful vision. So how can people learn more about you? Give us your directives, your contact points.
Wonderful. Well, first of all, I run a women's mastermind group on Facebook called the Intentional Lawyers Club. We're a group of entrepreneurial women who have decided we want to design our lives, and we're doing it together and supporting each other. So you can just search for that on Facebook. You can find my website, outsourceeasier.com, where you can find training and discussions on delegation and on some topics that lawyers don't usually talk about, like emotional intelligence. If you're a Udemy fan, you will find my outsourcing course, Outsource Easier, catchy title, right, on Udemy. And then, of course, you can always email me at dina@outsourceeasier.com, or find me on Twitter at Dina Eisenberg.
Ten questions we ask everyone.
Jake, you ready?
I'm ready.
Fine, let's do
Okay. All right. Here we go with Dina. 10 questions we ask everyone. Number 1, what was the last book you read?
Ooh. Oh, The Brand Story.
All right. Number 2, what is your best habit?
I always forgive me.
Nice. That's brilliant. Number 3, Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, all of the above, or none of the above?
Oh, Twitter and Facebook.
Agree. Number 4, coffee or tea?
Coffee, baby.
That is the correct answer. Thank you. Number 5, what is your favorite place?
Oh, wow. Gosh. Wherever my 2 children are is my favorite place in the world.
Agree. And I meant my children, not your children. Wherever my 2 children, wherever the kids are.
My 2 children
Right.
are.
Okay. Number 6, is Keanu Reeves a good actor?
Oh, hell no.
Wow.
Number 7, what was your first job?
My very first job was at Taco Bell.
Awesome.
I was serving up the tacos, boys.
Right on.
Spicy.
Right on.
Spicy.
Number 8, what is a skill you have outside of your current occupation that you incorporate into your work?
Ooh. You know what? Cooking. I'm a really great cook and a wonderful eater, and I try to use those references in my work because they're yummy and luscious.
Right on. Number 9, what sites, blogs, or newsletters do you regularly check in with?
Oh, well, on the personal side, I'm an addict for Houzz, Houzz. It's a design site.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Love that. And on the professional side, I'm kind of a big fan of Roger Dooley. He does neuromarketing. So I'm a black nerd. I like all that geeky stuff. So those are my favorites.
Okay, so check it out. Number 10, we made it. After a long day or a long week at work, how do you relax and unwind?
Dance party, baby. I have interns and we turn up the music and dance around.
That's the best answer we've had.
No,
so
just so
Excellent.
you know, my interns are cats, so.
You shouldn't have said anything. Like, that's the best office. Awesome. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
The lawyer in me was like, well, how is that going to play when she says she dances with her interns? No, we'll have to correct that.
It's okay.
There
I
you
think
go.
with the cat qualifier, it's safe.
Okay.
I think we're good. Cool.
Cool.
That's
Oh,
it.
fun, guys.
Well, thank you for being a good sport with that. Appreciate it.
Of course. It was really a lot of fun.
For show notes, links, and info, go to www.consultwebs.com/lawsomepodcast. Be sure to leave us a review and rating in iTunes or wherever you find the you listen to. Until next week, stay lawsome.